The Ancients Were Mighty, Chapter 2, Part 2. What the Stones Have to Tell. In this video series we are looking at the evidence for the existence of a forgotten globally active civilization at the end of the last ice age. So far we have come up with a number of good reasons to believe this is true. In Chapter 1 we could see that the ancient megalithic walls and stone carvings in Peru, Egypt, Japan and other places in the world have many strange features in common. These striking similarities show that the builders were connected somehow, thus pointing to a globally active culture, forgotten by time. This is not consistent with conventional theory. It says the Inca built some of the structures and carvings in question. We have analyzed field research regarding this theory in the first part of this chapter. This analysis showed that it is downright impossible to build the structures with the proposed Inca techniques. In this part we shall zoom in on the stones themselves and see what they reveal about the way they were built. Geology gives us the tools to establish what techniques were used to shape them. Do the stones show characteristics that point to a use of high technology, or is it possible to explain the strange features with conventional theories? Let's see what answers we get. The soft rock. There are many strange rock carvings to be found in Peru. We see them in many types of the softer sedimentary and harder igneous rock. These carvings have smooth surfaces. They can be found perfectly flat, but also in strange curvatures. There are literally thousands of these carvings to be found in Peru. The edges in these carvings are extremely precise. One could wonder how, but most of all why it was done. The strange and diverse carvings don't seem to have any common symbolic meaning, and they do not seem to have been of any practical use either. When looking at something that you don't understand, it is wise to forget all you think you know. One must completely ignore all the previous theories and start from the beginning and ask the question, what is it that I observe? When I observed the shapes with an open mind, they reminded me of playing with clay. I could see the big lump of clay in front of me and my mom cutting a piece out with a knife. Long I've searched for evidence to support this association, and eventually, as always, the internet provided. In this documentary by Jan-Peter de Jong and Jesus Gamarra, they test the hypothesis that the rock was soft once with an experiment with clay. Here they show shapes found in the stone carvings and reproduce them by molding clay. There are uncanny similarities to be seen in the simple clay molds. It shows that the stones were not carved or cut, but molded in these examples. After this, the other shapes make a lot more sense. This would also explain some of the other features we have seen before in the megalithic walls. Features such as the scooped surfaces and the perfectly fitting joints between the megalithic stones. Vitrification. When looked at from an angle, one can see a shimmering light coming from some of the surfaces of the finely cut rock. One would think these rocks are nicely polished, but this is not the case. The surfaces of the carvings are vitrified here. The molecular structure of the rock has morphed into a more glass-like substance. In this image we see a shiny, crumbly layer that is clearly different in composition than the rest of the material. In this next example we see a wall here where the left has been vitrified. The line in the middle shows where the Vitrificator 2000 device was applied. It's quite precise. I can also see myself making two lines with wet fingers through the still soft clay. A lot of times the stones in the walls seem to have the same light refraction as we saw before. Here too the vitrification process seems to have been used to soften the rock surfaces and so filling all the places where the stones don't connect. This process makes them fit together perfectly. We can see these effects in the streets of Cusco, but also at places like Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo. Different styles of construction. Now that we have established that there are places where the rock was being molded, we can look at different building styles in the Peruvian Andes. In Peru, one can find different styles of construction that date from the time before the Spanish rule. The most prevalent are these medieval Inca walls that are built with rough stones and held together with adobe mud. They are to be seen in many places in Peru. Machu Picchu is one of the most clear examples of this building technique. We have to give credence to the Inca here. This is a marvelous engineering feat. So the Inca were quite mighty themselves, so of course they tried to reproduce the megalithic precision created by the molding and vitrification. But, as we saw earlier this chapter, they could never have achieved the megalithic precision with their level of technology. When you take a superficial look, you would think they did succeed to reproduce not the size, but the precision here. Closer inspection shows that there's a distinct difference here though. To the left, we see a wall that is made by the Inca. When you use the technique proposed by Jean-Pierre Protzen, this will be the result. To the right we have a wall that was made by softening rock and vitrification. It is obviously much more precise than all the Inca building styles. We have now established that there are three different building styles to be distinguished. There's the medieval Inca style, the Protzen technique Inca style, and the megalithic precision polygons. In these examples we can see the different styles next to each other to emphasize the difference. The colored lines show where the different building styles meet. Note that the megalithic precision polygons are always at the bottom. This shows that this style of construction is the oldest and thus not the result of perfecting the other two styles in question. We can see the same in other places around the globe. Check chapter 1 of this series to view this in detail. And now for the conclusions. The stone structures and objects in question are impossible to make with blunt stones or soft bronze tools the Inca used. The edges are too precise and the stones are too hard. One cannot just reach between the surfaces here and cut this with another stone. There's too little room to use a big stone, so you could never precisely apply the required amount of force to cut the stone like diorite in this way. It is just not possible to create sharp edges in a diorite stone by using river cobbles and copper tools. And even if possible, it would again be a crazy amount of precision work for seemingly no practical or greater symbolic reason. When carved, rock tends to crumble. We see no crumbled rock here, just rock slashed straight through like it was nothing, completely ignoring the naturally occurring grains in the igneous rock. It becomes more and more clear that the softening of rock was used to create the mysterious stone carvings and megalithic walls. This explains a little bit about how the precision was achieved. It does not give an answer to the weight problem. I think both have to do with the vibratory characteristics of the thing we call matter. More about this subject will be revealed in chapter 5 of this video series. After these two chapters, we have established that the hypothesis of an ancient, highly advanced, globally active civilization can be confirmed by three different methods. 1. There are clear and distinguishable features that set the Cyclopean precision structures and carvings apart from their immediate surroundings and, in turn, connects them to the other mentioned megalithic sites around the globe. 2. The field research undeniably showed that it is not possible to achieve the observed megalithic precision structures and carvings by using the techniques conventional theory is proposing. This disproves their connection to the immediate surroundings and also confirms their connection to the other sites around the globe. 3. Experiments and thorough analysis of the molecular structure of the rocks show that the sedimentary and igneous rock was molded at one time. Nowadays we are barely able to reproduce such a feat. It shows that the conventional theories are wrong and that there was a use of high technology stone cutting techniques in ancient times. Now a clear image of a highly evolved culture in ancient times begin to form. How ancient these times are is not clear yet. The combined data coming from the geological phenomena around these structures will give us indications for the times they were built in and the cataclysms they possibly encountered. More about this can be seen in chapter 3 and 4 of this research. I hope you enjoy.